Well, hello everybody. Welcome to Virtual Thursdays Dire Literary Series. As I am multitasking, and I'm going to share this to the Virtual Dire Literary Series room in about a second. I have to find out where the share button is. There it is. Yeah, this is our last reading of the summer. Of the spring. So one season is done, and the summer season will start in 2 weeks. And let's get rolling here. Our guest tonight and our feature tonight is Wayne Daniel Berard, and let me show you a little something about my friend here. And here is his bio. And you want to find out more, you go to waynedanielberard.com. And he is an educator, a PhD grad, a poet, a writer, a shaman, a sage, and a Gryffindor. He lives in Mansfield with his wife. His writing history, as you can see, it's long. He has published 20 books. And just looking at this credits, if you want to look at it, you can see that a lot of these books are 2020 something. So a lot has come out in the past 6 years. And congratulations on all of them, Wayne Daniel.
Thank you, Tim. Thanks a lot.
And without any further ado from me, why don't I turn it over to you and you can give us a fine reading.
Thank you so much. Thanks for being here, everybody. I really appreciate it. So I'm going to be reading from my latest book, which is New and Selected Poems. I'm out with, let's see. Okay, where do I want to start? Out with Metaphysical Fox Press and with my dear friend, Bob Perry. Many of you know him, I think. So when I was speaking to him about what we wanted to do, I had several manuscripts. And he said, what number book is this for you? And I said, well, it's going to be 20. So you're going to do something special for that. So we ended up with New and Selected Poems. Like I think 7 of those books were poetry books. So took X amount from that. And there's the selected and added some new. So here we are, New and Selected Poems. So I'll start with one of the newer ones, which is called Grand Opening. Every morning I say aloud, help me to remember what I need to remember and to forget what I need to forget. And oh, the unforgettable peace this opening epigraph brings to the poem of my day. Never have I remembered someone needless, gone like a snap of house elf's finger. And when inevitable caesura appears in a line, I smile, satisfied that I've once more not done what needed non-doing. Effortless effort. Thank you. And the first book of poetry that I actually published was a chapbook called Christine Day. And you'll hear a lot about my amazing wife, the lovely Christine, the joy of my life, in these poems. And this is the title poem from that collection, Christine Day. Today we declare our independence from the rest of everything. Let it all go tread on itself. Today is measured in thank yous, 60 thank yous to the hour, 24 to the course of thank you across a cloudless thank you. Christine, let there be, and it was Christine, and all saw that it was Shabbat, stopping in you, resting. Every day the Messiah's Eve, every day death's angel wavers, oh, it's you, and passes. Gladly, every day becomes another night and day, Christine Day. So that's it. And if you had a good pleasure to meet her, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And so this one is from the my book entitled Realm of Blessing. And it is called An Old Girlfriend Dies. I'm 74 now. These things start to happen after a while, you know? And an old girlfriend dies. The alumni magazine is good for something, after all. She was my first love. I was not hers. I was scared to that which has apparently taken her. How I wish I had, but I was a seminarian, thrown into the Vatican II experiment of mixing baby priests with college women. We lay on the bed together, listening to Jesus Christ's superstar, coming so close, me straining against vows I wasn't ready to take, she vowing to transfer more than schools if I put down my cross and followed her. I couldn't. Then she married some guy in ROTC. We lost what we never found. Touch, the last page. I loved her so. She scared me so. I was a Franciscan seminarian for 5 years. They had such things as high school seminaries in those days, and off I went to serve God and get the hell out of my house. And so 14 years old, I'm off with the Franciscans, long brown robe and a rope and a hood. I looked like a salt shaker, basically. And it wasn't until much later that I, in my adoption search, I'm an adoptee, I found I was actually Jewish, which was an interesting discovery. I guess I was the first Jewish seminarian since St. Peter. I don't know, but so it all comes out in the books. And the next book in the series is my one of my Harry Potter books. I write Harry Potter themed poetry, believe it or not. Right? I enjoy it greatly. I think that it's kind of the new mythos that is coming along. You know, one time I think many writers, you go back in history and read even to the current day. If you talked about Greek mythology or Bible stories, everybody knew what you were talking about. They knew all the images. Not so much anymore. So if I say, you know, he's as rich as Croesus, my students would go, Jesus, who, what? Yeah. But if I said, I think your boyfriend's a Dementor, everybody knows what I'm talking about. So I think this Harry Potter mythology has kind of moved in to that place. And this is from my Harry Potter themed chapbook. And the book coming out in the fall is likewise a full-length Harry Potter themed poetry book. The book is called Little Ghosts on Castle Floors. And this poem is called Sorted. We know the magic is there, just down the alley, just through the platform. We've sensed it all along, and we know it's dark and dangerous, not just Disney and Pixar, as well as simply glorious. We touch our scars, the one birth gave us and the ones you did, and count ourselves lucky to sense the mystery, though we don't fool ourselves. No letters coming, no Anglia flying to our rescue. Still, the soundtrack underscores each day in our heads, and we'd rather this small magic from this maddeningly close distance than to join the rest of you in eating death. So there it is. This little piece is from a book called, Art of Enlightenment. And it's one of my favorite books, I think, that I've done. And it's called Angels. Some people have guardian angels. I have pushy principalities, insufferable seraphim, twitchy thrones that won't take numquam for an answer. I can't get settled, but some six-winged bully starts in, 2 to tickle my conscience, 2 to kick my butt, and 2 to cover their mouth while they laugh. 1,000 eyes and no warning. 1 minute I'm in seminary, next I'm, pardon my language, home. A professor in the morning, another unemployed poet by afternoon. Yes, yes, comfort the disturbed, disturb the comfortable. I owned that bumper sticker, and truth be hearkened and heralded, I'm better without the titles. A spiritual being with institutional experience, not the other way around. I get their celestial pissiness, their envy of pizza and Peroni and passion, even as they push me toward delicious limitlessness. Just don't be fooled. Those drippy pictures of feathery lifeguards hovering between youthful you and the creek's edge are PR, paternalistic reassurance. My angels have chop-blocked me into the water farther and deeper until I rose to my nose and parted entirely before me, only then beatifically unenvisioned. So there we go. And so when I have this mixed background, kind of moved as slowly into my Jewishness, which I now quite fully embrace. I'm in a Jewish renewal community. We're kind of woo-woo Jews, kind of universalists, you know what I mean? But it was an interesting transition. And this is called retreat. In Jewish life, I don't really have retreat houses to go and for quiet time. So I was in this Episcopal monastery off of Harvard Square, Society of St. John the Evangelist. You may know it. And that's where this came from. Retreat. The monks at supper read from Night Fishing in Galilee. On the one cup and communion in bits of shared saliva. Everyone goes, ugh, then titters. Though they have a dripping, bleeding man suspended at the front of the room, each sitting. Return to my cell. Remove the brass crucifix from the wall. His body seems permanently attached to this. I cannot take him down. Gently, a Jew wraps him in his Berkeley sweatshirt. Night. That's that. And this piece, which is called my latest book, Poetry Mage, which is out with Bob Perry and Metaphysical Press. It's called Another Year. I'll give up when the sun gives up. When it stops rolling up to the house like an early model Chevrolet and pops the front passenger side door open. I'll turn away when the moon turns away. Not just for a few minutes, that's a phase. But when slice of scimitar no longer becomes cat's eye, then lemon turnover, then defining roundness of white walls to equinox. I'll step aside when the books step aside. When authors no longer string words together as sky paths, as night watches, as dome lights, headlights, dash lights. Thank you. Tim, how am I doing? How much longer?
Maybe one more.
Maybe one more. Okay, let's do this. So we could do a Harry Potter poem. We could do a non-Harry Potter poem. What do you say?
Potter poem.
Harry Potter.
Okay, very good. That's it. Then we'll do that. Let's find it. This is called Why I Love the Potterverse. I get this question a lot. Why I love the Potterverse, even if you don't like the author so much. Why I love the Potterverse. Because I've seen my share of thestrals and nonetheless have ridden them to majestic rivers and towers. Because I lived coveted by relative strangers and declined to crucio them when I came into my magic. Because I had met seething challenge of hungry death more times than arithmetic can count, and never once considered boarding the ghost train. Because my not first love brought me into my first real family, and I adore her for it. Because I know at the heart of this cynical, lineage-laden world is a wizard pretending to sleep in his portrait, winking knowingly at me. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much. You ready for some questions now?
I think so.
But first, before we ask you some questions, you got a full-length Harry Potter poetry book, and I've thought of a great place to do the book launch.
Oh, tell me, please.
Sometimes theaters you can often rent like on Saturday afternoons, like for kids' parties, and you can show any movie you want. So I suggest that you do a book launch at a theater and have a Harry Potter film shown.
That's a grand idea. Yes,
Yeah.
it is. Yeah. I
couldn't help how narrative that you speak and how you read. Do you also do any live storytelling events?
I have in the past, but I haven't in quite a long time. And I was very lucky in seminary. We were all trained in homiletics, to speak, to tell the story, to get things across to people. And that's kind of stayed with me, thankfully.
Question from Robert Fleming. After 20 or so books, how do you maintain your passion for poetry and writing?
Oh, it maintains me. It's the other way around. It's not a question of, it's not work. it's never effort. I know a lot of people talk about it that way, but my thing, I wake up in the morning and there's a poem in my head. That's how it goes every morning for years. It shows up. Somebody somewhere, I don't know, gives it to me, and it's more like taking dictation than anything else. And so it's really kind of communicating with whatever the hell's out there. God is Morgan Freeman, whatever's out there.
That's Morgan Freeman. Love
and,
that.
and it's a gift, and so I never get tired of that. How many you ever get tired of getting presents? I never get tired of getting presents. By the way, my birthday is March 26th. Write that down. But yeah, so it's never a question. There's always something new and interesting, and it shows up all by itself. I mean, maybe one day it will stop, but I'm 74. It hasn't stopped yet. So
Robert also asks, what is your best poem and why? And if you don't have a best poem, what do you feel your signature poem is?
what is my best? That's an interesting one. What is my best poem and why? I think it's hard to judge your own work, but the one that I get a lot of comment on, I think might be my best poem. And I'm flipping as I'm doing this here. It is from Art of Enlightenment. And I wrote a lot of this when my parents were aging and then passing away shortly, one after the other. So if I were to ask what I thought my best poem was, this might be, may I read it? Is that okay?
Yeah, well, that does make sense. It's logical. Please read it.
And my dad died of COVID. And he was kind of an interesting, blustery guy. He was a D-Day vet, and that really defined him in a lot of ways, for better or worse. So this poem is called My Father's COVID. This is my adoptive father. I did also find my birth family, which is another interesting story. But my father's COVID, the landing craft of my father's life, has once again ground itself on Omaha Beach, but the iron door is not dropping. Normandy is all gusts and bluster, like always, like him. Night is falling, and he wonders why no order to disembark, and why he is alone in the whole center. A single candle gutters and gasps, drowning in the liquid of its own meltedness. My father wonders if he's dreaming or gone crazy until he hears a woman's voice calling his name from the darkening cliffs. He recognizes her, but doesn't. The candle sputters. He huddles in the corner of his craft. I hope he knows not to wait for me, denied permission to board by executive order. I hope when the wick exhales and all the iron falls away, he'll see only enemy-less beach, moonlit, and know his one love's call, unhiding in the high hedgerows.
Oh, thanks, Wayne Daniel. That is a wonderful poem. You've written fiction, YA fiction, nonfiction. Out of all those genres, which is your favorite or most rewarding?
Well, I think, poetry, of course, is my favorite and the most rewarding. But outside of that, I wrote this YA fiction piece, kind of sci-fi, fantasy, social commentary called "Cruel to be Kind," KRUUL, to be KYNDE, two alien races, and I had more fun with that than as John Belushi said, it was the best fun you could have with your pants on. And I think that's probably my favorite thing I've ever written. It's a lot of fun. I get to include everything I love. There's a lot of Harry Potter stuff, Taylor Swift, all my favorite things. These are a few of my favorite things in the book. So that's the one I think that I really enjoyed. Why? Because I never grew up anyway. So it's great fun.
As a writer, do you use the same self-discipline in all of the different forms, different genres of writing, or do you behave and act differently when writing, say, a poem versus a longer piece of work?
Well, it's interesting. I use the same self-discipline, which is none at all. I have no self-discipline. I do my meditation. Like I say, oftentimes with the poetry, when I wake up in the morning, there's a phrase or two, and it's running. I have to catch it like a train. I turn over in bed, pick up my cell phone, go to the notes program, hope I don't wake up Christine beside me tapping on the damn thing. If it's something more like prose, the ideas are there in the same way. But I do my meditation, and go to the computer, and the little man in the back of my head talks. and I type. I am completely unself-disciplined. I always was. So it just happens. I don't do anything. I wish I could take responsibility. You said very nice things about 20 books, and that's wonderful, but I can't take credit for it. It just showed up like Amazon at the front door. Okay, good. Oh, another poem. Let's do this. And that's how my relationship with whatever the hell is out there has
Well,
always been.
you obviously have Amazon Poetry Prime, so
I
that
guess so.
comes.
I don't pay anything though.
So, as I noted earlier in your bio, so many of these books came out in the past 6 or 7 years. Do you have a count out of the 20? How many were published after 2020?
I have to go back and look, but I would say easily 10 of them, you know.
So, why so many so recently?
That's an interesting question. I'm not sure. I think part of it was that when I retired, I wasn't teaching anymore. So I think I had a lot more time and a lot more open space in my head and heart to allow what was coming through to come through, And at the same time, I was no longer elucidating. We mentioned earlier that, I have 20 books because I basically can't shut the hell up. And I didn't have anybody else to not shut the hell up too, like my students in front of my poor students captive in front of me in my class, every day. So, I think that probably had a lot to do with the amount of writing that came post retirement.
You already told me which was the most fun to write. Which book of yours do you feel is the most important?
Okay. Of all the books, poetry and non,
Yes.
that would have to be the first book that I've had published, which was prose nonfiction. I actually got a sabbatical from my school to write this thing, and it was called "When Christians Were Jews." That is now subtitled "Recovering the Lost Jewishness of Christianity with the Gospel of Mark." One of the things when I found my birth family and realized I was Jewish, I said, I got to look into what this means. I don't know. I was raised Roman Catholic. Had been a seminarian for 5 years. Does this mean anything? Started studying Torah with a marvelous young rabbi named Alan Ullman from Newton. And what I saw was just amazing. Having been immersed in the church for a long time, oh my God, they gave a nod in seminary. Oh yes, Jesus is Jewish. Let's move on. It really wasn't. It really wasn't important. And realizing, oh my God, that's what this means. That's what he meant. That's what he didn't mean. In the Jewish context, and realizing how much Christians missed from not knowing. I mean, imagine, Tim, that somebody picks up your books, right? 2,000 years from now, and could be a totally another language by then. America could be gone. Let's hope not. America could be gone by then, and totally other. But they think they know all about you. They know exactly what you mean, enough to the point of, they could even found a religion around you and kick people out and include other people and on and on.
They might sum it up as he went to hell.
Yeah, but there you go. You get the idea. So it was just realized that without knowing the basic Jewishness of their faith, Christians were at a real disadvantage. So I wrote this book, and it was picked up by an Episcopal publishing house. And that was, I think that's the most important book. I've gotten a lot of feedback on it from pastors across and a lot of rabbis too, who wanted to understand Christianity better. So I think that's probably the most important book I've written. Yes.
Now, your new book, New and Selected Poems. Tell us about the selection process. Who selected them? Why they were selected? Was there a certain theme that you or the editor was shooting for?
Well, I selected them, right? And at one point, I just took up. I figured, I'd go back, X amount of months or X amount of years, and here's the group of stuff that isn't going to be in the selected part, all right? So, and I gathered them all together, and then I printed them up, and I'm sitting here in my living room, so I would just take them and put them all. They were on every piece of the couch, every piece of chair, every piece of the fireplace, everywhere. And I went through and I kind of used the same process, if you want to call it a process, that I used in writing them. I go around and say, okay, what is calling me? What is shining on the paper? Oh, I'll keep that one. What speaks to or answers that? Oh, that one. I went around the room. When I had a number of them, I said, okay, well, this is it. I don't second guess the universe, here it is. And then I decided, of course, what order I wanted to put them in, but that was kind of it. It's very free flow, and very effortless effort.
We talked a little bit about editing Soul Lit, which was an online journal of spiritual poetry.
Yes.
Was it hard in this day and age? Was it difficult to get spiritual submissions?
Well, first of all, we define spiritual very, very broadly, very, the human spirit, very, very, and we also in our introduction to the page would say we're really not looking for religious doggerel, none of that, stuff. So and we found that one of the reasons why my co-founder and I, Deborah Leipziger, if you don't know Deborah's poetry, do yourself a favor and see it. She's absolutely unbelievable. Was that we were having trouble getting ourselves published out there. People would hear word spiritual and would think, oh God, it's religious. It's linked to a denomination. It's going to be preachy. It's going to be proselytizing. We said right off, we didn't want that. We didn't write that way. It was hard to find. I think it's better now than it was when we first started. That was probably around 20 years ago. But and when we opened it up, at first, of course, we had to let people know what happened. So we were inviting all our friends, please send us something. Then as it got better known, we had a flood of things.
Wow.
There were tons of things that would be considered dealing with, I guess in one sense you could say what poetry isn't spiritual in some ways, but dealing with those types of themes, who you are as in comparison to yourself and the rest of the world, and engaging with the bigger whatever you wanted to call it. Yeah. And so we never
receive a lot of. Did you receive a lot of poetry from the recovery community? Because they're a very spiritual group.
Tons of poems from the recovery community, and from all over the world, every continent. Some would be in another language with the translation. We did that, so it was just absolutely amazing stuff. It's beautiful, and it really fulfilled a need out there. I think that people were finding the same problem that we had, which I think has changed over the years, I hope.
Last question. You and Sarah Letourneau run a monthly series live in Mansfield called Pour Me a Poem. I love this story. So tell me how it started and
Sarah,
how it continues.
Yes. Sarah needs to be in this discussion. Sarah,
right, I've got to let her in then.
Let her in. Okay.
I've got to spotlight her if I can find her. Oh, there she is.
Well, it happened in certain ways the same way that Soul Lit happened. There was a need, we thought. And, when I did this with Deb, I went to her Jewish poetry festival she runs in Brookline and didn't know her. At the break, went up and said, do you find yourself having trouble getting? Yes, I do. Well, let's start a magazine just like that. I didn't even know her. So Sarah had been one of our Soul Lit features, right, at one point. And
not a feature, but you did publish my poems in some of the past issues.
Not a feature. What was wrong with us? Yeah. I apologize for that. And
okay.
So and it said in her bio she lived in Foxborough, right?
And all of the poets here that weren't featured, there's group apology.
Yes. I don't know how many of you had things in Soul Lit, but but her bio said she lived in Foxborough, where I had lived for many years, right next door to Mansfield, where I live. Mansfield, Mass, by the way. If you want to come out to it, don't go to Mansfield, Connecticut. You won't find us. And so I contacted her, emailed. We had her email address because she had sent us the poetry. And I said, let's get together and talk poems. So we went up to the Dunkin' Donuts one day in Foxborough and started talking. She's a wonderful person, as you know well. And at one point, we were lamenting the fact that in terms of going to readings, there was nothing really local to us. You had to go to Boston, you had to go to Providence. Worcester had a very lively scene, Plymouth, but you had to schlep yourself out to these places. And I said, why don't we start our own? And she went, okay, like that, and but she was very game, and we did it. And it's called Pour Me a Poem because we initially met at the local Dunkin' Donuts in Mansfield. The first thing was, okay, we can do this, but where are we going to do it? What's our site? They were very nice to let us do it. And we got there that first evening. This was, 3 years ago now, right, Sarah? Going on 4?
It'll be 4 years ago in September.
And they said it wouldn't last.
Mhm.
So they were at Dunkin' Donuts. I think we had 6 or 7 people the first night, and
Mhm.
7 o'clock. Not much is going on in the evenings at Dunkin' Donuts. They were fine with it, and we started to go. And if you know, a lot of Dunkin' Donuts have what they call Dunkin' Radio. It's an in-house radio piped in, you know. And I said, "Oh, this is wonderful. Can we turn this off now?" And the very nice young lady behind the counter, "Oh, we can't turn it off." So we can you turn it down? We can't do that either. We can't even touch it. There's a big metal plate. Nobody, not even the manager can get into it. I said, "Oh my God, what do you do when you close? It runs all night." I said, "Oh my God, we have these people that wanted to read their poetry, and they went ahead and did it. They were very brave, but punctuated by, 'Hey, get your culotta.'" Oh, it was awful. It was absolutely dreadful.
It was a really good thing that we had a microphone that night, because
Yeah.
it was very necessary.
So then we were kind of orphaned. We went around looking for a couple of different places in the area. They didn't work out. And finally, I said to my wonderful wife and my wonderful mother-in-law, we all live here together. And COVID was just kind of on the way out, sort of. And we said, "Can we have it here at the house? How do you feel about that?" And there was a little, hesitation, but we have it in our living room, which has doors that, block off from the other parts of the house. And he said, "Sure." And it's a big house. We've had close to 30 people in this living room, right, Sarah?
We've had as many as 30 people. That includes both poets reading in the open mic and supporters here for
Absolutely.
Pour Me a Poem. It has grown so much in the almost 4 years it has been going.
It's a fabulous series, and it's in Mansfield, and it's an area of Massachusetts that there actually not much going on. And now there is something going on once a month, second Thursday of the month. So if you're local to Massachusetts, come and check it out. And Sarah, thanks for popping in.
Thank you,
You're
Sarah.
welcome.
If you
Of
have
course.
if you have a pen, it's 51 Park Street in Mansfield. And Mansfield is not that far from my dear friend Joe Fusco Jr. out in Worcester always says, "Do I need a passport to get there?" No, you do not. And you just park across the street from our house and you're here.
Yes, and there's nothing to steal, and there's a large dog that's hidden in case you decide to do that. Wayne Daniel, thank you so much for
Well,
being
thank you, and
here
thank you all for coming.
and your poems and your work. And again, if you want to know more, you can go to one word, Wayne Daniel Berard with two R's.com, and you can find out all about his books, his readings, and as they say, upper right, more.
Yes, and I'm on Facebook. If you are, I'm still there. Sometimes I wonder why I'm there. I'm still there, and once a week I do a little thing, film something. It's the Harry Potter themed poem of the week. So if you enjoy these, they'll be
Fantastic. And if you're watching Wayne Daniel on Facebook right now, I'm going to cut off the live feed. So if you're interested in coming in and reading in the open mic, you're always welcome, and I will let you in. So for you folks that are doing that, thank you so much, and thank you again, Wayne Daniel.
Thank you.